year 2011, the final year of my university degree, and I'm making games like there's no tomorrow. The ideas are flowing, and I come up with a number of potential projects. One idea that I love is a hack and slash RPG where a group of adventurers are fighting against a human-controlled GM, akin to taking just the combat from D&D and throwing it into a game. A couple of years pass and Fable Legends is announced. It wasn't the first time I'd felt someone had listened in on my idea and ran with it, nor would it be the last. Regardless, I was excited. I loved Fable, and they were combining it with this competitive hack and slash concept. What could go wrong? Yeah, that figures. The next 5 or so years after uni were quiet on the game dev front. I'd always had a project or two on the back burner, but nothing ever eventuated. That spark was reignited in 2019 when a group of workmates persuaded me into downloading Unity. Fantasy Battle Arena was born, and boy was it pretty rubbish. None of us really knew what we were doing, and we quickly lost motivation. I started work on another project, codenamed Forgotten Password, but the scope was enormous, and my focus was on all the things that didn't really matter. Spacey Boy 9000 was a mate's project that could have been the next big hit. I put together some UI, but it wasn't long before that was dead in the water as well. Fast forward to 2020, and that itch has returned. Only this time, I'd like to think I've learned a thing or two from my past failures. I consider the many ideas I've collected over time before it dawns on me, hey, what if I could still play Fable Legends, but on the big screen, while yelling at my mates in the same room? Heroes Folly was born. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the name took about 3 seconds to think of, and I'm not too sure it'll even stick. But right now, there are more important things to think of, like actually making the thing. So here's the lowdown. Heroes Folly is a local multiplayer hack and slash, where 3 players are killing monsters, getting items and new abilities, while the 4th player, known as the Phantom, is doing what he can to slow or stop them from succeeding. While the players have different abilities and items to aid them in combat, the Phantom has some neat tricks up their sleeve too, like placing traps, monster control, and debuffs. The gameplay loop is pretty simple for now, but if the concept proves to be fun, I've got a heap of ideas to expand it and hopefully turn it into an actual game. Naturally, a lot of the ideas I have come from places of inspiration, in particular other games that I love. D&D is the grandfather of so many RPGs that I play, so I'm borrowing some game mechanics from that and other pen and paper games as a base. The combat of Chrono Trigger always had me hooked as a teen. The way that abilities from different characters could be combined to create new effects was fascinating, and doing that in a multiplayer environment would be even better. I've just come off the tail end of playing Xenoblade Chronicles for the first time. Highly recommend you check that one out. Some of those combat mechanics are already starting to shine through in the early prototypes, so it'll likely play a pretty significant role. While this is the first time I've been serious about a project, it's not to say it's ever going to reach much of an audience. At this stage, I don't even know if it'll be fun, so the goal is to figure that out. I have a heap of ideas on paper and even more in my head, so at this stage I wanted to find a minimum viable product and then have some people play it. With some luck, the first demo will be enjoyable enough to warrant improving it on its shortcomings rather than just scrapping the idea. Only time will tell. To help achieve the goal, I'll be limiting my work by focusing on what I know. I'm a programmer, not an artist. One day, I'll try and make a game from the ground up and put myself through the painstaking process of learning to draw something. Today is not that day. Instead, I'll be using as many assets as I possibly can, while doing my best to spend as little money as possible. Fortunately for me, that little spark of excitement I had with my colleagues in 2019 led to me spending way more money than I should have on a heap of assets in the Unity asset store. I'll be reusing a heap of those to get me through the project. Speaking of Unity, it's the only game engine I have some experience with, and said bunch of assets already purchased for, so it quickly became my engine of choice. At this stage, I haven't planned out the entire roadmap for the demo. I think I'm still figuring that one out as I go. But I'll be shooting for a playable demo before the year's out. The most important thing is that it's actually played, to prove the concept, so the quicker I can get there, the more motivated I'll be. I made a start on the project before deciding to split my time between development and making this blog, so we won't be starting with nothing. So far, I've brought in a few models, made a rough little play area, implemented some basic movement, some of the RPG mechanics like stats and equipment, a targeting system, and local multiplayer. I'll be using these blogs as a means of implementing features, with something meaty hopefully being completed with each video, roughly every 2 weeks. That'll do it for this one. In the next video, we'll jump more into development, start improving character animations and combat. This is the point of the video where I ask you to like and subscribe. This whole YouTube thing is still really new to me, so I don't actually know how that helps me. But at least if you subscribe, you'll get notifications when I make new videos. And if I know people are watching, I'll be enthusiastic about making new content. So it's a win-win. Hope you enjoyed this second introduction video, and I'll see you next time.